Hello, my friends. If you are just tuning into this, thanks for watching. I'm Sarah, and this is a place for people who are questioning their faith or deconstructing their faith, and also a place where I show my very cute pets. So if you're you all right, checkers? Here's Ruby. You want to say hi? There's a big girl. Hi, Casey. I was just showing off Ruby. Welcome. Hello, hello. Hey, Erin. Good to see you. Good girl. Yes, we do lots of pets in these lives. For anyone just joining, hey, I'm Sarah. And this is a place for people who are deconstructing or questioning. Hey, Walt. And so generally these are pretty chill lives. You know, I don't usually do debate. So we're not quite that vibe. Well, I'm glad you're here, Erin. Just a little background. Hi, Ruby. Oh, here's Ruby. If anyone still wants to see her. Hi, big girl. Oh, yeah, you like chin scratches? Good baby. Praise Doug. Am I going to be on the line? Not at the moment. I don't know. I am going to be on one of the Atheist Experience shows, though, coming up in a few weeks. Hello from Virginia. Hi. Oh, well, yeah, 1 Samuel 15:3 is a pretty rough one. Oh, well, hi from Ukraine. Oh, yeah, Justin talks about that one too, for sure. Oh, thanks, Erin. Oh, from Indonesia. Well, hello, welcome. Very nice to meet you too. Hi, Charles. Hi, Rebecca. Hello from Germany. Who is Jesus for you? So I used to be a Christian, and now I think Jesus probably was a person who existed, but I think a lot of the things that were written about him later probably didn't really happen. Hi, Philip. Hello, Mr. Coolman. Hey, Matthew. Good to see you. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. Hi, Hayden. Hi, Ruby. You're going to be just fine. Ruby's getting very mad if I'm not constantly petting her. Hi, 108. Oh, from Serbia. Oh, that's so exciting. Well, hello. Welcome. For anyone just joining, hi, I'm Sarah. This is a place for people who are questioning or deconstructing. Ruby is a dog. Here, I'll show you. Here's Ruby asking for pets. Yeah, you need some cuddles, huh? Okay, good girl. Ruby is a Great Pyrenees, actually. She's like a big super golden. 108, I'm very sorry to hear that. She looks old. Well, she's 7. Oh, well, good morning. Krista, hi, good to see you. My reason for leaving the faith. So yeah, I do have a whole video that like gives you the backstory. The short version is that I just stopped believing that it was true. And it took a long time. to arrive there, but that's what ended up happening. Hey, Dr. Joe. Hi. It's really good to see you. Oh, you have Cane Corsos. Wow. Yeah, those are, yeah. Yay, dogs, bunnies, and cereal. You know, Checkers was just bouncing around here. I bet she'll come back. Thanks. Wishing you the best too. Leaving what faith? I was part of Protestant Christianity. Hi from Nashville. I consider myself an agnostic atheist. Seth says, organized religion is off-putting, so I'm in deconstructing mode. Does that throw out the truth of freedom that I've experienced through principles in the Bible? No, I mean, I think, you know, it's your own journey that you have to, you know, do your best to figure out what you think is true. Agnostic atheist doesn't make sense. So, hi, Kylie. Whether you're saying like atheist or theist and Gnostic or agnostic, it's talking about two different like types of knowledge. So whether you're a theist or an atheist is, you know, do you believe that there is a God? But then are you agnostic or Gnostic? Do you think you can know for sure? And so I don't believe in God, but I also don't think I can ever know for sure. All right. I am, now that we have some people here, I am going to switch us to, okay, so now for comments, we're gonna do subscriber or follower. I don't like the word subscriber. So that we don't get some unpleasant comments. It tends to make the discussion a lot more robust. So if you're just joining, hey, welcome. Hi, X. Brian. Nice. What's up, Mario? Good night, Philip. Hi, Evan. Christian here, what is the theme of the discussion? So this is a place for people who are questioning their faith or deconstructing their faith and just kind of want to connect to other people in that same position. And just to kind of talk about the process. Yeah, that was exhausting. It was 4 minutes. Yeah, it did not take long to get some people making some weird comments. What's up, FP? Oh, hi, Bryce. Are you a universalist then? I don't know, Mario. Hi, Little. No, you believe in judgment. So you just don't believe in eternal hell, like annihilation then, if you don't pass your judgment? Oh, thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. Not a fan of pineapple on pizza, huh, Mario? John says, I'm atheist and I still don't believe in free will. It's quite complicated philosophically. And it's quite complicated physiologically as well. Why are you ex-Christian? So I ended up at a place where I just stopped believing that it was true. Hi, Kyler. Are you going to be live on TikTok? I will be live most of the other days of the week on TikTok. So Tuesday is just my my YouTube day. But you can ask a question in here if you want to. Hi, Caleb. Yeah, Darth says the issue is sola fide or sola scriptura. How many Christians within Christianity believe one or the other? So I understand sola scriptura, but remind me, what does sola fide mean? X says, I think I finally deconstructed like totally, which is liberating but scary. Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it. It's freeing and it's scary. Oh, by faith alone? Okay. Hi, Justin. Goodness. Were you a Calvinist? Not officially. I probably held some beliefs that were in line with Calvinism. Like the university that I went to was like in the Reformed Church. I think that is that under the umbrella of Calvinism. Krista says, I went to church Sunday. It's weird to notice the way that church is set up to evoke certain emotions at certain times. Yeah. It's definitely designed that way for sure. Do you think that our consent was obtained to be in existence? No, I do not think it was. I have no recollection of giving consent to exist. Hi, Jonathan. Yeah, the comments about free will, it's such an interesting kind of thing to think about because I'm not sure that I believe we have it, and yet we function certainly as if we are able to make choices. Thoughts on attending church as an atheist because I just like the social aspect. Are you asking me, if I think it's ethical or practical? I think if you feel comfortable and other people feel comfortable, awesome. I mean, I think, one thing that churches do really well is community. I think churches are really good at that. So I totally understand like wanting to still go and be part of that. Hi, Noir. do you think it's ethical to enforce eternal life, or is it immoral to impose immortality? Well, I mean, step one is what is what is this immortal life like? I mean, if we're imposing the possibility of eternal suffering, then definitely not ethical at all. Um, if it's eternal paradise for everybody, I mean, I don't know. I think it probably would be nice for people to be able to opt out of immortality if they didn't want to exist infinitely, you know? Yeah, that's an important thing to weigh the pros and cons of. Krista says, I still attend church occasionally. I miss the community, but I'm not a fan of what it does to my mental health. Have you heard of open theism? I have heard of it, but I don't know what it is. Yeah, John says, I don't like the concept of eternal anything. It is something that is just sort of impossible for me to wrap my head around. Well, thanks, Fuzz. Would eternal tacos be bad? Yeah, eternal tacos would be bad. That's a lot of tacos. Kyler asked, do you think there's more to life than just this? Like, I feel if I had to give an answer, I'd say there's got to be more to it, or something will make sense in the end, but who knows? Yeah, SJ, no problem. You know, it's funny, Kyler, when you I'm going to show my age here, but the hit song by Stacey Orico, "There's Got to Be More to Life," is now in my head. I don't personally believe in it's like a spiritual realm. There could be one, but I don't have any evidence that there is. Bryce says, if you don't have a free will choice to participate in your finite existed, why in the hell would you have a say in your eternal existence? So the question was about what should be, not what is. Tuar, that's really funny. X says, I wouldn't mind living forever as long as it's on a paradise island in the Caribbean. I mean, I could do a lot of beach time. Could I do infinite? I don't know. Hi, TH. Welcome. Kalki says this is the spiritual realm. I guess I just don't have any evidence for that. You know, it seems to be the physical realm. Fuzz asked, if I may ask, do you think it's reasonable to say if God says it, then it's right, and if God does it, then it's unquestionably moral, divine command theory? So no. That's actually funny with what Bryce's comment is right below that. If you say that whatever God does and says is just automatically labeled as good, then the word essentially loses its meaning. All that word means is these are God's actions and these are God's likes and these are God's not actions and dislikes. But the way that we use the term good and bad implies the way that we treat each other, right? It implies some understanding of how your actions affect someone else. And so to just say anything from God is good, that totally changes the meaning of the word for it to become nearly meaningless. Hi, Christian. Dale says, so if a loved one dies and goes to hell, but you miss them, what happens when you go to heaven? Yeah, I ask this question a lot. Like, how can heaven be a place with no sadness if you have loved ones who are suffering infinitely? Hi, Justin. Justin says, but have you read John 3:16 yet? Thank you very much for the super chat. TH says, if we need God to know what's moral and we cannot trust our own moral intuition, how do we know God is good? Yes, absolutely. All you can say is this is what God likes and this is what God doesn't like. But you have to have some standard that is external to God in order to say that God is good. Prosper says, my lost faith, omnipotent God who allows you to be born and knows you will never accept him and dooms you to hell seems cruel. I agree. Dima says, curious as to why you gave up and left. So I do want to clarify that I did not give up. I actually tried as hard as I could to keep believing. Oh, you're welcome, Fuzz. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. And it was very heartbreaking for me at the time to lose my faith. So it was something that happened to me, not something that I did. Bryce says it's cruel because man made hell, not God. I did not make hell. I don't know if you remember doing that. I don't remember doing that. Hudson asks, so would you say the problem of evil and hell would be one of the reasons you deconverted? That was definitely like the first domino to fall for me. Yeah, it's certainly a big issue. Sudha says, do you believe you can have objective moral foundations from a secular worldview, or is it only possible within the realms of religion? I would argue that the realms of religion also do not have objective morality. And having this discussion can be a little sticky because what exactly do we mean by objective morality? So maybe you and I are using different definitions, but from my point of view, all morality is subjective in that it's something that we are experiencing, in our minds. We can create some standards and then measure our morals against those standards, but I'm not sure if that's what you mean by objective. How did you end up on Dr. Phil? A producer found my TikTok. Hey Dima, I actually, if you're interested in like my backstory, how I arrived here, I have some FAQ videos on my page, and one of them is like, why don't you believe anymore? And that might be helpful. Ashley says he is not cruel. He gives you a chance to change. You choose rather you believe or not. So I think that's a big misconception, particularly amongst people who have always believed. And I don't know if that's the case for you, but I did not choose to stop believing. Had I had a choice in the matter, I would have, careful, Rubes. I would have kept believing. You cannot like will yourself to believe something. There's a lot of choices that you can make around belief. You You can choose what you want to research. You can choose who you want to talk to about it. You can choose whether you want to physically go to church or not, but you can't choose, are you truly genuinely convinced of something? Hmm. Hi, Crystal. Crystal says, I don't know how I found you, but wow, hi. My grandmother tells me I'm going to hell if I don't believe her as a Christian, and that if I don't believe in her God, I'm doomed. I'm so sorry. Like, that's just such a crappy thing to tell somebody and so painful. Um, I hope you have some support system, that isn't just from her, but I'm sorry you're in that situation. Hi, DJ. Do you know Jesus existed? I'm trying to get a feel of your beliefs. So I consider myself an agnostic atheist, meaning I don't believe in God, but I also don't think I can know for sure. I think Jesus was a human who probably existed, but I don't think all of these things that are attributed to him really happened. Like, I don't think he was God. Suda says, but that would mean no human action is objectively wrong, but just subject to the individual, which means, I don't know what words I can say on here. Um, Ending the life of someone is wrong as a subjective preference. So I think we're mixing a few things up here. So morals are subjective in that they are ideas we have in a human brain. So it's subject to our thoughts and our perceptions. It doesn't mean it's just preferences, like I like this and I don't like this. Generally, morality is built on humans' ability to use logic and reason and empathy, which means that while you and I might have some differences in our moral code, we probably have a lot of overlap. And so it's not just like I like doing this terrible thing. Morality is built around how do your actions affect other people. And so by that definition, I mean, again, I think that that term objective is kind of hard to pin down in this situation. Um, Thank you, Justin. Justin with the super chat says, if you need God to be moral, you're not moral. And, before doing these lives, I genuinely didn't know people thought this way. I have had so many people tell me, like, wait, you're an atheist? So why don't you just go around hurting people all the time? Like, well, because I don't want to. And the follow up question is, wait a minute, is the only reason you don't go around hurting people all the time just because God told you not to? It's such a different way to look at morality. My morality is built on how do my actions affect other people, not what are God's rules. Fuzz says, just my thinking, false religion uses force and fear. True religion draws with love and freedom. Does this make sense? I understand what you're saying. From my perspective, I would couch that as maybe healthy religion and controlling religion, rather than the categories of false and true. But I agree with you that religion can be a lovely thing, and it also can be a harmful thing. It certainly can be either one. Thank you for the super chat, John. John says, if you're an atheist, how do you know it's wrong to commit a violent crime? It's always kind of funny because I was a victim of a violent crime. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. But it is interesting how when we get questions like that, people somehow are under the impression that there are no consequences at all in this life, and somehow hell is the only possible consequence for anything. And of course, we know that that isn't the case. Rookie says, I don't go to church or anything, but I still believe in God. Am I wrong? I don't know. All I can tell you is what I think is correct, but I don't know for sure either. I think honestly, we are all just trying our best to figure stuff out. So I think you're going to do your best, and I'm going to do my best to figure it out, and we'll see where we land. 10 Light says, why do people think if you're a non-believer of religion that you just want to hurt people? Because that's not true. I agree, it's not true. And I think it depends on your particular community. I think there are some people who are in more insular communities and who genuinely don't know a lot of non-believers. And so it's just what they hear about non-believers, or what they've read about non-believers. And I think that's where it's easy to have all these false ideas about it. um, Thank you, Justin, for the super chat. Justin says, someone forgot to tell God not to commit violence. Yeah, I think looking through particularly the Old Testament, there are so many pretzels you have to twist yourself into in order to justify those actions. What is your ultimate goal in life now? Well, I don't know if I have one ultimate goal. I think that this life is the thing that we have. Like, I don't think that there's any next thing. So I want to spend my time connecting with people that I love. I want to spend time, in relationships and in connection with other people. I want to try to put a little more kindness out into the world. I love growing and learning and trying new things. And so, yeah, I mean, part of, I think, existing and living is enjoying it when you can. Obviously, life is really hard sometimes. So yeah, I want to leave things a little bit better than how I found them. What is your biggest hurdle for not believing in the God of the Bible? Evidence. I don't have any evidence that this God exists, and the Bible does not make a particularly good case. Gregory says, God gives us breath and life. How do you breathe? Oh, it's my favorite question. Are you guys ready to learn how we breathe? Thanks, Red and Blue. Red and Blue with the super chat says, would you characterize the relationship Christians are asked to have with God, love me or else, as an abusive one? This really depends on denomination, I think. I do think it's an unhealthy relationship in evangelicalism, in a lot of versions of Protestantism, but it really does depend. And I do think, though, if in any way, the way that your Christianity works is that you have to either love God or you will be subject to eternal suffering, I think that is a huge problem. Like, I think that is coercive for sure. Oh, okay, wait, the breathing, because Gregory is doubling down. You do it without the power to control it. So you actually have respiratory regulatory centers in your brainstem, which means that you actually have innervation from both the somatic and autonomic nervous systems. So you do have the ability to control your breathing, and it's also regulated by your autonomic nervous system, which is why most of the time you don't think about breathing. And it's regulated just by, the afferent nerves connecting to the respiratory center in your brain. But you can override it, which is exactly why you can hold your breath. How do you explain all of the fulfilled biblical prophecies that align with the historical account of Jesus? Jordan, you are in luck if Justin is still in the chat. He is an expert in this area. If you'd like to share which prophecies you think came true, I'm sure we can chat about it. What gave humans life? Women. Ten Light says the coercion you talk about, I also think is very dangerous when it's preached towards children who lack the ability to understand it at such a young age. Yeah, absolutely. I remember being literally 5 years old, knowing that I deserved to go to hell. I'm like, man, what has any 5-year-old done that deserves eternal torment? Oh, this is interesting. Jordan says his death was predicted to the exact year. How do you arrive there? What created women? So do we need to have a talk about the birds and the bees? Thanks, Fuzz, for the super chat. Fuzz says, as a Christian, I cannot believe in eternal suffering. Jesus paid our penalty but did not eternally suffer. Instead, he faced death equals annihilation. Why have you forsaken me? We choose life and death. Yeah, Fuzz, and I think that perspective makes a lot more sense. The idea of eternal, infinite pain is so unbelievably cruel that I can't imagine a good God would think of it, and would do it. And I agree with you as well. If Jesus was supposed to take take our punishment, Jesus did not suffer eternally. So he didn't take that punishment. So that must not actually be our punishment. I agree with you. I think that makes a lot more sense. Gregory asked, where are you going when you die? Please explain. I can tell you what I think is going to happen. However, I have never died, so I cannot be sure. But I think once my brain completely ceases to function at all, I just won't exist anymore. I think nothing will happen. Is this a family-friendly live? It should be. I mean, we're not going to talk about anything horrible. I probably don't swear very much. I can't predict what the comments are going to say. Hi, gamer. How do you explain the human body? Oh man, Gregory, you are allowing me to explain my favorite stuff. Although I guess I never even explained exactly how we breathe. If anyone wants to know, let me know. The human body functions in a way that evolution makes so much more sense than a designer. The human body is a series of trade-offs. You know, some things work, but when this works better, this works worse. There are a lot of things about the design of the human body that don't actually make sense or are inefficient or illogical, wasteful. And so while the human body is definitely complex, it's not all that well designed. It's certainly not perfectly designed. And so I think evolution is such a more logical explanation than a perfect God who designed us. Thanks, Fuzz. I really appreciate the super chats. Fuzz says, I believe the body is the life support for the brain, which is the computer simulating consciousness. Kill the body and brain and we cease to exist. I'm not a dualist. Greek teaching from Plato, not biblical. So, Fuzz, so do you think anything exists for us after we pass away? Like, is there some sort of heaven in your worldview, or is it just everyone ceases to exist? As of yet says illogical to us, but always had a purpose throughout mankind's history. I do not think that we have any evidence that all of these malfunctioning systems in our body had a purpose at some point in history. I'm not sure how you arrived at that conclusion. Thanks, Justin, for the super chat. Deconstruction Zone says, oh wait, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. All dogs go to heaven, checkmate atheists. Do you believe in ghosts and spirits? I do not. No. Oh, wait. Aren't I charging my phone? Oh, I knocked it over. Oh. Okay, now we're charging. Cats can go too. Mm. Yeah, Confucius is asking like when we get goosebumps, like why does your hair stand up? And it would definitely be like from a time when we had a lot more body hair. And so if you are covered in a thicker type of body hair, the ability for it to stand up is partially your ability to regulate your body temperature to change the amount of air that's trapped in between the hairs. Hi, Allison. So human was created from stardust and fish. Well, it's a little more complicated than that, but with lots of environmental pressures and over millions and millions of years, sort of. What's your faith? I don't know if I have faith in anything. In your opinion, who throughout history was an equal or greater moral exemplar than Jesus? Oh man. I don't know because I don't know enough people in history. Meaning like I'm sure there are lots of people who were incredibly moral, and I may not know who they are. But there are many people. I don't know that Jesus even did anything that was all that unusual for like a moral leader. Hi, Rachel. Well, thanks for stopping by, Dima. Appreciate your time. Death says, of course, the host doesn't believe in ghosts, but I guess no atheists would. Um, it depends on what you think a ghost is, in that, like, an atheist wouldn't believe in a god or any gods. But if you think a ghost is somehow some part of you that remains after you die, I mean, theoretically, you could believe in ghosts but not gods, I think. Hi, David. Hi, Winter. Would you say most atheist agnostics were former Calvinists who don't believe in free will? No, not most. Some. Thanks, Fuzz, for the super chat. Fuzz says, from the command to rebuild Jerusalem to the Messiah, the Prince, is 483 years. Jesus was baptized 27 AD, died 31 AD, exactly as prophesied. I'm going to need a little more information. to understand that. Where does it say that the Messiah will come exactly 483 years from a particular time? How do you explain very, and I mean very unusual things? Depends on what you mean by that. Can you name one popular atheist that believes in free will? I have no idea whether some atheists believe in free will. And it also depends on what you mean by free will, because often, in these discussions, we're using free will just to be synonymous with being able to make a choice. But that is not actually the dictionary definition of free will. The dictionary definition is the freedom to make a choice without the constraint of fate or consequence. And I don't think anybody believes in that actual definition of free will. Hi, Minutemen. Thanks, Andy. I really appreciate it. Andy with the super chat says, if God was real, how do we know he is good and the devil is evil? What if it is the other way around? Yeah, absolutely. In that, if we are defining good and evil simply as God, the things God does and likes are good, and the things that he doesn't like are evil, we actually don't have any measuring stick to know that God is actually good. We just know he's God. And to your point, the way the actions that God takes, particularly in the Old Testament, certainly cause a lot of harm. And it's difficult to justify that as this perfect goodness. Like Nick says, like what? Do you mean things he does in the Old Testament? Is that the like what? How do we know we are believing in the right God? Well, I think most Christians don't worry about that question because they think only one exists at all. So Nick, the things that God does in the Old Testament that cause a lot of harm would be flooding the entire planet, telling his followers to eliminate whole groups of people, having rules where you stone children for being disobedient or stone women if you think they're not pure on their wedding night, allowing slavery, those kinds of things. Punishing innocent for crimes of guilty. Yeah. Bryce, I am so confused as to what you believe. I'm seeing some of your comments. Are you a Christian? Are you an atheist? Thanks, Minutemen, for the super chat. Minutemen says, when will you and Justin do another video on the book of Genesis? I love the ones I've watched so far. Thank you so much. We have recorded another one. Go bug Justin to upload it. It is ready. We actually, this is kind of ridiculous. We spent a whole hour on chapter 19, but like, oh my gosh, there's so much in chapter 19. It's very, some intense things happen. But yes, it will be as soon as Justin has time to do some editing, it will be up. Oh, thanks, Justin. To be fair, Justin is an incredibly busy person. So it's, this is like down on his list of all these many, many things he has to do. Oh, what happens in Judges 19? Oh, thanks for looking forward to it, Saint. I appreciate it. Oh, hi, Checkers. Do you want to come up here? Come here, baby. No, she's just giving me side eye. Oh, that is a bad one. Best bet is to believe in them all. Yeah, every time someone tries to, hit me with Pascal's wager, it's like, well, if we're wagering, stack the odds in your favor and believe in all the religions. Andy asks, why do people believe in the Bible so easily when we have no proof of it being real? And you know what's really interesting about that is the majority of Christians that I know and talk to, they believed in the Christian God first and read the Bible second, if they read the whole thing at all. It's has much less to do with logic and more to do with experience and emotion and hearing stories, and then reading the Bible seems to come later. Nick says, most people weren't around to see evidence of most things of the past. How do you know George Washington? So, Nick, you can actually go to museums and see these artifacts for yourself. You can see letters he wrote, George Washington wrote. You can see his medical records. Is it true we still have his teeth? Didn't he have fake teeth? And tons of documentation and corroborating evidence. So you can see that for yourself. What artifacts of Jesus's life do we have? Oh, thanks, Dr. Joe. Why is it always George Washington? It's always George Washington and then Alexander the Great. Nick, we do not have many thousands of eyewitnesses. Fuzz says Daniel 9:25 through 27 from Artaxerxes 457 BC decree to rebuild Jerusalem. 483 years to Messiah. Jesus died. In Daniel, is it saying here is a number that the Messiah will come after? Oh, there you are, Checkers. If anyone wants to see Checkers, here she is. Hi. Oh, thank you for the kisses. What a cute little bunny. I have two. This is the little smaller one and friendlier one. Do you know bunnies give kisses? It's so cute. Yeah, who's your good bunny? That's a good ones. Yeah. That's checkers. The real 401 says, the reason I asked if you were a parent is because if your child is disobedient, do you discipline them? Oh, Justin says, yeah, that's a lie. Scholars disagree. About which part, Justin? The real 401, I don't know if you're relating disciplining a child to hell or not. But when you discipline a child, the purpose of that discipline is teaching, right? You discipline a child not to make the child suffer. And while the child might not enjoy the discipline, the goal of it, the purpose of it is to teach them so that they can do better next time, so that they grow and learn. So if you're equating it to hell, hell is none of those things. Fuzz says, oh, wait, come back. Yes, in Daniel, Messiah after 69 weeks equals 483 years. How does 69 weeks equal 483 years? The real 401 says, no, I was equating it to the Old Testament, and that's what God was showing us to learn from our actions. So God allowed slavery so we could learn from our actions. And God ended the lives of every single person on the planet minus 8 people so we could, like, those people didn't get to learn from their actions. They were just drowned. Okay, that seems sort of strange math to do. Yeah, Job's family didn't get to learn anything. Why did God flood the earth? Do you know? I know exactly what the Bible says God floods the earth, but most Christians don't like the answer. God flooded the earth because he was sick of all the wicked people. I know some Christians say, no, it was because of the Nephilim. But if you go back and read the chapter, it's because of the wickedness of the people. And if you want to make the argument that it was because of the Nephilim, God failed because the Nephilim show up later in the Old Testament. Autonomous says he did it because people were liars and cheats and wicked. But people are liars and cheats and wicked now. What was the point of ending all of them just to bring back more wicked people? Fuzz, thank you for the super chat. Fuzz says, in Bible prophecy, 1 day equals 1 year. How do you know that applies to all biblical prophecy? Wow, that was a lot. Yeah, Eric says, just remember, God planned the flood decades before it happened. I mean, the idea that God's like, all right, I'm going to build this earth. I'm going to fill it with people, but they're all going to be terrible. So I'm going to drown them all. And then I'm going to refill it with people, but they're still going to be terrible. So there. Hi, Mike. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Mike says, hello, how are you? Good. I'm doing fine, thanks. I appreciate you asking. I hope you're doing well. Yeah. um, Brian, yeah, to your comment, like as soon as Noah gets off the boat, they're doing bad things. So it's weird that like Noah was so righteous and so good. Um, because it doesn't seem like it. Autonomous says, okay, and still he was holy. What does holy mean to you then? Eric says, it strikes me as mean spirited that Noah didn't get a miracle to help with all that work. Yeah, he was like 500 years old when he started building this boat, and it took him 100 years to do. I would think God would be able to just have a miracle for that. That seems pretty reasonable. Autonomous says he had to because God couldn't help him. Why not? Oh, well, thank you so much, Mike. Mike says, what you're saying is so true. Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Justin says, why did God create angels that could boink humans in the first place? Also, a fair question. Minuteman says, if Jesus died for our sins, why have so many terrible things happen after he died? I've had more productive long weekends than Jesus. Yeah, it's such a strange concept that like Jesus supposedly conquered death. You know, he broke the chains of sin, and yet we still die and we still sin. Um, I I agree. Why is your channel name Leaving Faith? Well, to be fair, I probably should have named it like Left Faith, because I stopped believing in God back in 2009. Winter says the more powerful you make God and the more foreknowledge you give God, the more culpable and responsible he is for every failure that happens under his nose that he could have prevented and didn't. That I think is the problem that Christians have, particularly if they um, are biblical literalists. But if God is all powerful, if he designed and created everything, and he knew how everything was going to turn out, then he is responsible for all of it. Well, thank you, Fuzz. Seriously, I really appreciate your conversation. And I also, we can continue the conversation if, I know we can't like DM on YouTube, but if you hop over to TikTok, I have the same handle at TikTok, at Leaving Faith. And you are very welcome to send me a DM over there. What's your opinion on Eastern spirituality? I mean, I can only tell you my cursory experience. You know, it seems a lot, I don't know, more calm and peaceful to me from the outside. But you know, different Eastern religions certainly are different from each other. Um, but it seems less focused on like shame and guilt, which I appreciate. Eric says the anguish of unanswered prayers is horrific. Not only is Jesus not helping you, but his failure to help you proves your unfaithfulness. No wonder people get complexes about that stuff. Yeah, I agree. Jesus promises to come help you, and when he doesn't, you have to figure out why, and somehow it's always your fault. Alrighty, friends, it is getting late for me, so I am gonna have to call it a night. Thank you so much for hanging out. And thank you so much for your support. I am on here every Tuesday night, and then I am on TikTok most other nights. So again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And if you, I guess you all are subscribed, but if you follow me, then you'll get notifications when I'm live. Oh, thank you so much, Noir. I really appreciate that. It's really kind of you. So thank you so much. And again, if you want to DM me, you can come find me over on TikTok. Same handle. So good night, everybody.